Welcome to Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hello, everyone. This is Gary Wilson, and welcome to this week's live podcast in real estate investing for professional men and women. So I appreciate you participating. Chances are you're a chiropractor, a dentist, perhaps a pilot, a teacher, typically professionals in your field. And you may even be a business owner. I find that quite common. But the bottom line is it's how we think about real estate investing. So while it's what brings us together on this podcast, the reality is our common backgrounds create a really wonderful community. So in any case, obviously we invest ethically and in the areas we invest in. We want it to be win-win for the community, for the tenants, and for ourselves. Well, also, if you want to be part of the community, it's been growing dramatically over the last 4 years for several thousand of us across the U.S. and Canada. Just go to myinvestmentservices.com, and you'll see. Just click through, find yourself your way around. Go to the members area, and you'll see where you can participate in a number of different levels. Just choose a level that's right for you. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, please feel free to do so. You can go to any number of 75 different channels, including Stitcher, iHeartTunes, iTunes, iHeartRadio and iTunes, the different channels, whatever suits you. And we welcome you with open arms. So in any case, a couple things here. I've had several guests, and sometimes, they're not always related directly to real estate investing, but what I find value in is they will help you in your business currently right now. And when you are ready to invest, if you're not already, you can see how we treat investing like a business, because it actually is a business. So the guest today is Corey Kupfer, and everything he's going to talk about has to do with authentic conversations, negotiating, deal making that you can apply to your business and to your investing, because the same skills are very applicable. So Corey, welcome aboard, man. I appreciate you taking your valuable time to share with my folks. It's wonderful to have you aboard. I appreciate that.
Okay, Gary, it's great to be with you and your audience. I'm looking forward to this.
Excellent. Hey, if you wouldn't mind, Corey, some people may be familiar with you already because I'm sure there's some crossover here, but would you mind just kind of painting a picture of who you are? I know you're from, like New Jersey, East Coast. You spend time on the West Coast. We're like brothers from another mother. But share a little bit about where you came from, your background, how you got to where you are, because I want people to see that and feel that, because when we go into some content, it's going to resonate a lot more, I think. If you don't mind doing that, that would be great.
No, sure, happy to. Listen, I'm born. I'm a New Yorker. I'm born and raised in Brooklyn. I grew up. I've been an entrepreneur since I was a kid. I mean, I literally had a business at age 15 with employees. I mean, not like real employees with payroll, because I didn't know how to do that at 15, but I had people working for me and, delivering flyers door to door. And I've always been very entrepreneurial. And, went to law school and became a lawyer, and 6 years out of school, opened my own firm. So I've been practicing over 30 years. I've had my own firm over 25 years. But I've always had other entrepreneurial ventures in addition to that, including, by the way, in real estate investing at various times, whether it's individually or through some funds I've put together over the years. But now, so that's evolved over time. And really, I'm a deal maker. I'm a negotiator, deal maker, strategist. I've written a book on negotiating. I've got a podcast on deal making. And in addition to my law firm now, I've got a speaking, training, and consulting company called Authentic Enterprises, which is all about inspiring authenticity in business. Because I think anybody, and you know this, Gary, I mean, obviously because of your longevity and success and, in your career in the industry, unless you can get away with doing deals to take advantage of people, once or twice or three times, but it's a small world, and that doesn't sustain. So, when you build authentic business relationships and you do deals authentically and you negotiate authentically, that's the way you have sustained success.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I tell you, it's funny, the wisdom you gain the more you're in business. You realize at the end of the day, it's being yourself, being authentic and genuine is the best way to build these long-term relationships. And the value, like the money, the wealth we gain, the income we produce, really, it's a measurement of success. The true success, like the fulfillment part, is from the relationships. That's the real value, is in the relationships. And so if you're smart, you build solid relationships, you'll never have a problem with deals coming your way. So,
no question about that. And you build those relationships, and you come from, in my mind, from a service mentality. I believe in servant leadership. I believe in if I focus on the positive impact that I'm going to have on the people in my life, whether it's my clients, whether it's my employees, whether it's the business partners that I do business with, the money's going to take care of itself.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, I have to just interject just briefly here. I've been to New York quite a bit. One of my nieces is at one of the performing arts colleges in Midtown Manhattan right now, and my oldest sister lives out in an area. It's near Stony Brook, the hospital out there on Long Island, and love it up there. Man, great area, fast moving, fast paced. It's exactly. I like that. I like the style there, and it's amazing how many of us commute. We kind of live through the coast to coast thing. So we've got a lot in common there. But hey, if you wouldn't mind, if we can dig a little bit deeper into the what it is you're doing, and if you want to go back a little bit historically, use some examples from when you were actively like full-time practicing before you started the speaking and the writing and all that, and maybe even tie to real estate. Maybe describe one or two of your favorite techniques that you developed, because I really value highly what you're doing right now. And I know that it's you can study all you want, but it really, in my opinion, I'm pretty sure a lot of it's coming from your real world experiences. So if you wouldn't mind, a couple things you can think of that, like, hey, Gary, I did A, B, C, I got D. And if you can tie it to real estate, that's great. If not, that's okay too, because we're all entrepreneurs here,
Yeah, no question. I mean, let me, so there's a few different areas we can talk about, but let me talk about negotiating, because that applies. I do a lot of corporate business deals, but I also do real estate stuff for clients. And I've done, like I said, I've done them on my own, and negotiating applies across the board, right? If you're, like you said, your audience is a lot of, professionals and entrepreneurs who may be investing in real estate as well. And the negotiating applies in their core business, and it applies in their deals, So, and that's something that I've developed a very specific philosophy on over time. It's the reason why, I ended up writing a book on it. And authentic negotiating for me is not just the title of the book. It's not just a buzzword. It's a very specific approach and philosophy to negotiating. And so, in my experience, a lot of the trainings out there on negotiating, a lot of some of the books out there, whatever, are all tactical. Right? It's if they do this, then you do that. And if you do that, then they do this. And it's tactics, counter tactics, and it's counter tactics to the counter tactics. And frankly, a lot of it's manipulative, and some of it's fine. There's certain value in some tactical level stuff. But for me, it's not the core of true negotiating success. Right. And so for my personal journey has been, doing this for over 30 years, representing clients and doing my own deals, I've seen what's worked and what doesn't work. And that combined with what I would call a journey of personal growth, because I think that, here's the thing. If you go into a deal or potential negotiation, whether you're buying a piece of property, whether you're doing a business partnership, whatever it is, I don't care what tactics you learn. If you go into that deal from a place of fear or scarcity, or you're in your ego, or you are, coming from any place that lacks grounding, you're going to be in trouble, right? I don't care if you learn some tactic to apply. So, for me, negotiating, deal making, and being successful in life is really an internal journey. And I have a core framework in negotiating, which is clarity. It's CDE. The C is clarity.
Okay.
Right? Doing the work to get total clarity on exactly what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what you want. And sure, there's the external research portion of that. There's the, there's the knowing the market. There's knowing the value, of real estate, trying to see that there's a good deal. But there's also the internal work on the why, on really, why do you want this deal? Why is it important to you? What will work for you? What won't work for you? If you're buying a business, if you're hiring an employee, if you're doing a business partnership, if you're investing in real estate, it's all the same. And people, I do deals that are multi tens of millions and smaller, and it's amazing how often people they're not willing to do the work to get the level of clarity that's crucial for you to get. And without clarity, I don't care what else you do, you're not going to be in great shape if you don't have clarity. So that's the first piece. And then there's the D is detachment, right? How do you stay detached to the outcome? It doesn't mean you don't have a preference, right? If you and I are doing a deal, if I'm buying a property from you, or would go entering into business partnership, or you're going to distribute my product or whatever it is, I mean, if I'm talking to you, I should have a preference. We get the deal done. Why else would I be doing that, and wasting my time? But ultimately, if it doesn't meet my objectives and your objectives, then it should be equally okay that I don't do the deal, right?
Right.
Successful real estate investors and successful deal makers in every situation I know never get attached to the deal, right?
Yeah.
And when they walk away, the key is they don't walk away from a place of upset ego, anger. It's not that Gary Wilson's a horrible guy because we can't come to a deal. It's just that your objectives and my objectives don't meet right now. In this moment, we're not going to do this deal. Maybe we'll do a deal later. Maybe we won't. Maybe I'll find another deal. And, so that detachment is key. And then the final piece is equilibrium. The E is equilibrium. During the negotiation, how do you not get thrown off, right?
Yeah.
And I can give you a million examples of that, but I mean, specifically if you want me to, but listen, how many times have you seen in your career, Gary, people do a deal and not do a deal based upon emotion? Or based upon lack of clarity, or based upon pressure for their ego, or based upon external factors. And those deals are never going to be close to as successful as the deals that people do when they're in that place of what I call CDE.
Yeah. Well, I love the acronym CD. I just took notes on that. And I for me, the one that clarity is absolutely spot on. I mean, it's like the truth, and the old saying, the truth will set you free. So you want to discover the truth of the situation, that the other person's truth, your truth, let them see your truth. Because I promise you, it's just like the scientist who discovers some type of remedy or a cure, for example. They'll all tell you the truth revealed itself when they uncovered all of the facts and all the information. It's like the solution presents itself. So it's amazing how that works out naturally. But detachment for me is a very personal thing, because I went through many years ago one of those, some people call it midlife crisis, but you probably know people have multiple major things happen at once.
Sure.
If you're going to not just survive but thrive, and not let that circumstance define you or consume you, if you were to grow and prosper and move on beyond that and thrive in spite of it, you've got to be able to detach yourself from outcomes, including in tangible things like material things like houses, cars, even relationships. I tell you, the best relationships I've seen where they're two independent people, but they find a place of interdependence. It's not codependence, it's not dependent, but it's two people, and where they merge, have the most wonderful relationship. But there's an element of detachment. In other words, they're okay on their own. They can travel and go do business and have confidence that relationship is solid. And they come back and everything's fine. So that to me was really, really a biggie, Corey, and I really appreciate that. So let's do this. If you could, is there an example you can think of either in your own world or maybe at a client of yours, obviously, change the name or whatever, that help drive home either one of these three or all three together, particularly like maybe the last one, equilibrium, because that's when you leave, if everybody walks away feeling like it was win-win, I'm pretty sure they'll be glad to see each other in the future on a future deal, and that equilibrium is probably what makes that possible. So I don't want to read too much in. I'd rather, if you don't mind, if you have an example, if you don't mind sharing, that would be awesome.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's a few I can give. I mean, I'll give one on a business partnership, and then I'll give something related to real estate investing, because I think it's actually it happened to me personally, and also because I think there's some lessons that I think will become applicable in the next number of years because I think we. Listen, I'm not one to try to time a market, but we've been in a bull market for a long time, and whether it's 6 months or 2 years or 5 years from now, at some point we all know the cycle's going to change.
Yep.
To plan for that now is a good thing. But the other example I'll give first is this: I represented. It was interesting. My client was actually another lawyer. Wasn't a deal lawyer. He's actually did something totally different, litigation, but he was in a business partnership with two other people unrelated to the law. It was a separate business, and I remember, it's funny because usually you say you hire an attorney or a professional negotiator because they're the ones who are supposed to be objective, right? Like even if you're going to be emotional, you hire a third party so that they can objectively advise you and objectively negotiate. But I find too often, actually, even the professionals sometimes can't maintain that clarity, detachment, and equilibrium. So in this case, I get on the phone with the attorney for the other two partners, and he proceeds to just go off on what a bad guy my client is, and how unethical he is, and all the horrible things that he did. Now, the interesting thing is, I had known my client for 15 years. Right? I knew who he was. I knew. Sometimes you get introduced to a client, you don't really know who they are, and maybe some of the things that somebody's saying may be true. In this case, I knew the guy personally. He was a friend of mine. I knew that none of this was accurate. And the tendency in a negotiation, especially when somebody is attacking you or your client, right, is to react and attack back, right? That's the common, especially when they're saying horrible things. I mean, this is a friend of mine. I know he's not that, but I know that being reactive is never, good, right? I know that this was the kind of guy, if I was reactive, wouldn't hear a thing I was saying anyway, because he had a particular narrative in his mind. And it's just not consistent with my, CD format, right? So what I did instead was I did a lot of listening. I just kept listening and let him rant. And I'd actually ask him follow-up questions to let him rant some more, and I said, well, what do you mean by that? Or, what specifically, what are you talking about there? Or let's say, tell me more about that. And he went, on and on and on and on. And eventually he ran out of steam. And then I would ask him something. He would go a little more. And, at some point he just had nothing left. And then I just calmly said to him, so listen, I heard everything you said. I want to tell you I disagree with pretty much everything that you've raised. All right. I know who my client is. I know the situation. They were trying to leverage getting my guy out of the business for no money and, having him walk away and that he'd be lucky to get that result because of all these claims they had against him. And there was value in the company. So I just told him very calmly that I disagreed with him and that we weren't going to be walking away and that, we didn't think it's. And the interesting part is he really didn't know what to do because I don't think he had ever experienced a situation where somebody didn't react and come back at him and where he was in this back and forth, right? Which is what a lot of people think is negotiating, right? You got to defend your position. Right. But that sort of, I was clear on who my client was. I was detached to the outcome of that particular conversation because I had conversations with my client about what he was willing to do. And although it wasn't his preference, he was willing to deal with the litigation if he needed to because he felt he was right and he wasn't going to walk away from a company that he had, a third interest in. And I maintained my equilibrium. Right, I didn't get thrown off by all of the threats and the comments and the raised voice during that negotiation. And it literally left the other attorney not knowing. And then I actually said to him, I said, I don't remember his name. Let's call him John. I said, John, and listen, I said, honestly, I just, you're very passionate about this. And I'm wondering, you have a lot of emotion involved. And, usually I understand we're ethically obligated to zealously represent our client. But I think, we also need to be objective. And I'm wondering why, you seem so triggered by this. And he said, well, I'm just passionate about I said, yeah, so am I. But, and he actually ended up apologizing to me.
Yeah.
Which was really interesting, because again, he was trying to, and, I won't go through all the other details of what happened, but basically what happened was I didn't hear from the guy. And I think he sort of like played his one card and didn't know what to do. And later we found out that they had, the other partners had terminated their relationship with him and hired another attorney. And we ended up negotiating a deal and settling it out. So, that's an example of how CDE really made a difference in a negotiation for a client.
Hey, while you're listening, just a quick note that we do have the venue secured for our next 3-day event. That is in August 23rd, 24th, 25th. That's a Friday, Saturday, and half a Sunday up in Boston, Massachusetts. Awesome time of year to be there. It's going to be at the Hyatt Regency in Cambridge. That's 575 Memorial Drive, Cambridge, 02157. Now, we're going to put this in the show notes. So those of you who would like to register, just look in the show notes for the registration link, and you can go ahead and register. In any case, I look forward to seeing you there. Come get some lobster. Come see a Sox game. It's the weekend before Memorial Day, so why don't you make a trip of it and go out to the Cape Cod, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard. Man, go up to Old Orchard Beach, Maine. But the main thing is come to learn and earn and network with everyone else in the organization here. We're only doing this twice this year, as far as we know. So here's your opportunity. Come on aboard, ramp up your game, get in the game if you're not in the game yet. But more importantly, have some fun, learn how to leverage what you're already doing to generate additional streams of income, particularly when it comes to your practice and your own investing in real estate. Okay, back to the show. Take care. Hey, what I want to do is come up with a little bit of a timing question here. What I want to do is kind of structure it like this. So let's imagine you're working with let's just take a typical entrepreneur business owner, like a orthodontist who owns her own orthodontic practice, and she just, she got out of school, she worked with another orthodontist, and now she's ready to break out, build her own practice, and she maybe wants to expand it and have maybe 5 offices. When is the best time for someone in the business world to actually learn about this and perhaps even work with you and have you help them learn and understand, negotiating, deal making, authentic conversations, because at some point they're going to need it. And I'm just, my thought is I'm struggling to, is this something I should have learned like before I even started the business, or sort of start the business and then, when I feel like I'm ready to expand and open another practice, that's the best time. So in your experience, is there a time frame in there you think is better for some to take this learning on?
Yeah, so I think, let's talk about some of the different ways people get involved. I always encourage my clients, with my lawyer hat on, right, my law practice, to come to me early because, and by the way, that's not the right move with some attorneys. There are some attorneys who really just are there to document deals, and they're, and frankly, if they're not true deal makers, they can get in the way. And that's a criticism that business people have of attorneys. And frankly, most attorneys are defensive about it. I actually think there's truth in it. And for me, frankly, it's been a competitive advantage because, there's a difference. There's a rhythm to deals. Here's just a little tangent. The challenge between lawyers and business people is that, so if you ever went to law school, all you do in law school is look at risk, right? You don't read, there are no cases in court that you read about where things went well because they don't go to court. So the only cases you study, the only thing you do in law school is study every situation that went wrong. Yeah. So lawyers are trained to focus 100% on risk. And I'm not minimizing the value that lawyers provide in evaluating and helping a business owner understand the risks involved. That's an important piece. But the opportunity is the other piece. And what business people, entrepreneurs know is that they cannot be successful without taking risk. Yeah. And there's an inherent tension because lawyers are often way too risk focused when you need to balance that against opportunity. So what happens is if you go to a lawyer that's only focused on risk, well, you probably don't want to go too early. You want to, because they're going to talk you out of the deal. Me, on the other hand, I'm an entrepreneur who happens to be a lawyer. I understand the balance. Yeah. So, and because I've done, especially in your example, I have probably done a lot more deals than that kind of client, right? Your typical entrepreneur who has not done hundreds of deals like I have. Mm-hmm. So, I always say, listen, call me early. I mean, let's at least have a conversation. Let me lay out some things for you to at least think about. Mm-hmm. Depending on what stage you're in, frankly, you may or may not have budget to work with me up front, but that's okay. I'll have a conversation with you, and then when it's appropriate. Also, even if we don't work as a lawyer, I do negotiating trainings. You may be able to take advantage of that. At a minimum, maybe it's appropriate for you to read my book. What I'm telling people on the deal side is I have this Fueling Deals podcast. Just start listening to the podcast, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're gonna hear about all of these different deal makers and the way they've grown. I mean, I just had one with a guy named John Bly that released a few weeks back. But I don't know when this is going to air, so it might be a couple of months by the time this goes live. But he's an accountant, and he did 5 deals in his first 18 months. Practice to acquire practices. In fact, it's how he left the big firm. He acquired a practice to get into the business because he didn't want to start from scratch. And then did 4 more deals in 18 months. And he's done 14 deals in the last, 8 years, right? That's a typical kind of, professional services guy who built through inorganic growth. So, so there's different entry points. One of the things, because I'm committed to impact and having people understand this stuff, is that for me, at least, there's different entry points where people can come in and, get access to learning, and some of them don't cost anything. So, so that it's a longer answer, but that's what I would say in terms of, when you can access.
Yeah, well, I definitely appreciate that. And, now I understand, obviously, you kind of split your time between the two coasts. So the clients you take on, Corey, is it anybody in the lower 48 states? Are they potential client candidates of yours, or where do most of your folks are? Or I know you have the legal practice where you have to have a license in each state, but as far as the speaking, teaching, the guidance that you provide with people, is it okay if they come from Canada? Because I've got students in 3 Canadian provinces,
Listen, so just, I have clients all over the country and frankly, even internationally all over the world, including, by the way, in the law firm, because, obviously outside the law firm, I can do training, I can do speaking, I can, do workshops anywhere. But even in the law firm, for what I do, as corporate work, it's not like if you litigate, or in some states, if you do real estate, right, which you're familiar with, in this title, especially in title states, you have to be admitted in that state to do it. So the real estate stuff I do is often, more limited, although even on that I'll help structure and then maybe get local counsel. On the corporate deals, however, I can do those all over the country. And if we need local counsel on anything to give an opinion or whatever, we get it. I literally have clients all over the country. And these days, everything's so virtual. So my clients don't care where I am, as long as they can get me on my joke is that I talk on the phone and send emails for a living. So I can do that from anywhere.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Thank goodness for a computer phone. In fact, this is kind of a funny aside here. I'm going to be in the Sequoia National Forest here in a couple weekends, and I'm making my arrangements. And everywhere I'm reading, hey, you're going to lose cell phone coverage. There's absolutely no cell phone coverage where this place is going to be. But then they said like an hour and a half drive in the direction. I'm thinking, am I going to be able to do this?
Well, I just got back from Nepal, and I was trekking in Nepal and had the same issue. In the cities, we were fine, but when we were at the trekking lodges, we didn't have much connectivity. And you know what? That's not a bad thing every once in a while.
That's what I thought. I said, Corey, I said to myself, I'm going to do this because I'm so dialed in and connected, and I make myself available to my students, even on the weekends, if at a necessity for them. That's not like a regular thing, but if they get stuck on something, I'm like, look, don't stay stuck. Text me. I'll find an opportunity to call you. And of course, what that means is I'm always on, but I'm looking forward to that weekend. So being detached.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Hey, so if you don't mind, what I want to do is I appreciate you sharing this information. This is awesome stuff. I think a lot of people are going to resonate with this. A lot of the folks that I work with are going to appreciate this too, because I know my life's experience. Just like in any walk of life, and it's the same thing in law. There were people who were, I call it competitively combative. They compete through combating, and there were those who were collaborative. So it's competition, but it's collaborative. And there was a great coach named Dan Sullivan up in Toronto. He talks about this, and he says, you know what, boy, if you collaborate with your perceived competitors, you'll find yourself actually growing more as a business person, sometimes even serving them. It's just an amazing philosophy. And boy, is it true. Look at you and your business. Look at how you've grown just from adopting that philosophy,
Gary, you are so talking my language. I really believe in that. And in fact, on my Fueling Deals podcast, I did a solocast recently where one of the things I talked about, I did a recap of the 2018, some of the big tech deals and other deals, just to draw the lessons from those for my clients and followers and whatever on the deals that they could do. And you see it with big companies all the time. They do deals with competitors all the time. Mm-hmm. In fact, you see some of those companies, I'm not necessarily recommending this for smaller companies, but they're suing each other on something and then they're doing 3 deals, on something else, and I'm not saying I recommend that, but the point is it's that, they understand that there's opportunity. That's number one. Number two, I'm a huge believer in what you just said about, I look at it as, operating on the competitive plane or operating on the creative plane. And there's a book called The Science of Getting Rich by a guy named Wallace Wattles that was published in 1909.
Yeah.
And it is actually one of the sort of the personal growth Bibles that some of the people we are more familiar with in recent years, actually, it's like source material for a lot of them. And the book, the public domain, you can get it for free. In fact, on my website, CoreyKupfer.com, I have a download of it on the resources page because it's not copyrighted anymore. And Wattles talks about operating on the creative plane, right?
Yep.
Not operating on the competitive plane. And basically, it doesn't mean that you're not aware about what other people are doing, but you're not always in reaction to that. You don't worry about them, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you operate on the creative plane, create a great product or service, take care of people, really think creatively, then and trust, and take the right actions, it's going to come to you. And it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing out there. I think it's another way of saying, something very similar to what you were bringing up, Gary. I 100% agree with it.
Thank you. Hey, we're getting kind of short here on time, but two things, and I'll let you wrap this up, is if you're able to touch on this, a lot of our listeners, they do have a practice. They own a practice, and thankfully, a lot of times it's in the form of an S corp, because that's what people advise them to do. There's a service business. S corp works great, but when it comes to investing, I get a lot of questions like investing in real estate. And my theory is, separate your real estate holdings from your business. Don't take your dental practice, and even though you want to buy another building and have another office there, and you rent out the other spaces to the massage therapist, the chiropractor, the pharmacist, whatever. My opinion is that should be a separate entity. But were you able to? I know it's kind of a different subject here, but I'm just thinking here. A lot of the people, some kind of tidbit or golden nugget we could give them to tie, like using negotiating skills, using collaborative competition to acquire property that helps them personally, but allows them to grow professionally. At the same time, providing some separation of liability, like ownership of properties being separate from the ownership of business. Is there any advice you can offer there, or a place people can go to get information? Because I don't want them to make mistakes. I want them to thrive and grow correctly,
Gary, you're 100% right. There is no question that your real estate holdings should be held in a separate entity. Most often that's an LLC, a limited liability company. I don't want to, obviously, every particular situation, people should get the right advice. But in general, you want to separate out liability from your operating business and, your real estate holdings. And because if something happens in your and your business goes down, you don't want it to adversely affect the real estate. If something happens on the real estate side, you don't want to have it adversely affect the business side. If you sell your business, sure, you can strip out the property later, but there's no question from a liability point of view, you separate that out. And frankly, listen, I'm sure you see it, with real estate investors. If you look at professional real estate investors, they may have a parent company, but they're usually dropping down a separate entity, a separate LLC, for every property they buy of any size. Maybe if they're smaller, they may group a few and in one entity. But and there's a reason that they do that. And frankly, sophisticated corporate people, when they have different operating business lines, will often divide even that. And
right.
So there's no question that that's the right structure in general.
Well, I appreciate that. And plus, there's tax reasons. Like, in other words, there's different tax rules and benefits to a LLC to be used simply for holding or owning real estate, and there's separate tax rules and benefits for people who have a service business. So you can benefit, if you do that, you can take advantage of those rules and benefits also. But so I appreciate that. And hey, one more question, if you don't mind. I know we're running on here, but a few more minutes is the kind of the big why, like what makes you tick, like what gets Corey up in the morning, what drives you forward? Because I can sense the passion in your voice. And what I want people to see is that when you do pursue your passion, I promise you fulfillment's going to be much easier than just going through the motions because you need to make money. But if you wouldn't mind touching on that, maybe you got some children or a family member that like inspires you or drove you early on, got you, thinking, okay, I can do this, I'm going to do it,
Yeah. So I guess there's a few things that come to mind when you say that, because it's at a surface level, it's an easy, it's a straightforward question, but at a deep level, it's a complex question, right? For me, so for example, my parents were not entrepreneurs, right? My parents worked for people their entire lives. In fact, when I hung out, when I was 6 years out of school, left a big law firm job, making big money, in 1991, which was a recession year, and then 91, beginning 92, they were worried like crazy. They told me I was crazy. A lot of my friends told me I was crazy. And the funny part is that, a couple of years later, when we moved into an office on Wall Street, where we had 3,500 square feet and views of the Statue of Liberty and all this kind of stuff, and had an office party, all these people came, and the same people who told me not to do it, who told me I was crazy, told me why I was giving up that 6-figure job back in the 90s, which was, and it's good money now, it was great money back then, was saying to me at that party, I always knew you would make it. I always knew you'd be successful. And the reason is because at that point they saw the office, they knew I had clients, they could see it, right? People don't generally give you advice based upon you; they give you advice based upon them, their own filters, right? So we can't let that. I'm a believer in that. You wouldn't be given, whether you call it God, the universe, whatever your construct is, you wouldn't be given a dream if you didn't have the ability to fulfill it. Now, it may not be a straight journey. There's going to be ups and downs, but there's a reason why you have that dream. So I always had a dream to not work for someone else, to be on my own, to build something in a way that I thought was, served clients a certain way and served employees in a certain way and created opportunities for people. And I believe you don't have those dreams unless you're meant to do them, So that, that's what drives me, helping businesses grow. Because for me, when you work with entrepreneurs, right, whether it's helping them grow their core business or helping them make money through real estate, that's, for people like that, for your audience, mainly, it means, where they can live, where their kids can go to college, right? What kind of life, can they travel? What kind of causes can they support and donate to with their time and money because they're freed up because of, of a level of financial success and freedom. And that's really, really what drives me. It's to give people those opportunities to have the impact that they want to make in the world by me helping them, through the impact that I will have.
Yeah, and it comes through loud and clear too, Corey. I appreciate that. It really is. It's the old saying is, their success is your success, right? And it's your fulfillment. And again, like the money's, you've learned to realize through detachment, money is simply a measurement of success. Their true success is who they become as people, to be able to, build wealth and income, that gives them the freedom to pursue things they're really passionate about. So it's a great dynamic, and I wish everybody could experience that. My hope and wish and prayer is everybody will find their gift, discover their gift, and share it with others. It is coming from contribution, coming from service, and I promise you, I've lived it. I used to be the corporate guy, and the more they promoted me, the more I disliked it. And when I broke it on my own, huge risk. I thought my father was going to shoot me, quite frankly. but looking back, I honestly, it's been 17 years now since I've been independent, and it just, the sense of freedom you get and the sense of fulfillment is just far surpasses anything. When you've got that entrepreneurial blood flowing through your veins, you at some point that your eagle is going to want to fly and get out of that nest and be independent. And I just hope everybody gives themselves permission to do that. And you're a shining example of someone who's done that. And I want to have you speak at, when I do 3-day events, Corey, 4 times a year. When I have you come speak at one of my events, I'll be doing one in Boston in August. It'll be closest one to you. If you're interested, you got a lot to offer, man.
Hey, Gary, I would love it. It definitely seems like we're so aligned philosophically, and our and our audiences and client bases are aligned. So I appreciate the invite, and I would love to do that. And listen, related to what you said, those of us, there are so many messages out there, whether it's through advertising or other things, whatever, that try to tell people that they're not enough, or that there's something wrong with them, or that they need to buy this car to be whatever, or with this dress. So when I come across people who get it, who understand that we all have, potential, and that, we want to work to help people live their potential, and that it's possible really for anybody. I'm like, you want me in Boston? I'll be in Boston.
Okay. Well, listen, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So just hang on for a second, Corey. To everybody listening, I'm sure you appreciate this. I know, Corey, I think I speak for a lot of people when I say we really do appreciate your sharing your valuable time with us. Amazing. And again, if you're like this kind of discussion, and you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women, on any of the different channels. Come on the board, join the community, go to myinvestorservices.com, join the community. And Corey, how can people actually get more in touch with you? I've written down your CoreyKupfer.com, and also you've got a podcast. Would you mind sharing how people can listen to your podcast, for example?
Yeah, so the CoreyKupfer.com, CoreyKupfer.com site is sort of a hub, so they can get to everything from there. So, the Fueling Deals podcast is there. If they go to fuelingdeals.com, it'll bring them directly, but they can get it indirectly through CoreyKupfer.com. The law firm's KupferLaw.com, but again, they can get everything, the book, the podcast, the law firm. You can click through CoreyKupfer.com, so that's a hub. And the Fueling Deals podcast is on, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, all that kind of stuff as well.
Okay, awesome. Well, listen, everybody, we'll see you on the next podcast. In the meantime, God bless you and your families, and have a wonderful week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women. Be sure to go to myinvestmentservices.com to join our community and start building wealth today.